Each individual in Westchester County generates close to 1 ton per year of refuse. That includes the residential and the commercial waste stream. What that means is at home, each of us produces about 0.6 tons of garbage a year. And then when you go to work, and we'll assume that most people work in Westchester, that live in Westchester, the 0.4 tons per year. So you have a total of about 1 ton per person.
The county no longer has a dump site, and in 1986, landfill at Croton Point was closed. Where does all this refuse go? Today, Westchester's refuse is brought to Charles Point Recovering Center. Charles Point is an incinerator that accepts 657,000 tons of refuse per year. But this poses a problem. An average year, the county produces approximately 900,000 tons of refuse. What is to be done with the excess 250,000 tons? The answer may be a process called recycling.
Recycling begins in the home. On September 1st, 1992, all Westchester residents must place recyclable material curbside in order for collecting companies to make pickups and bring the recyclables to a town depot. There it will be sorted and later brought to the plant itself, where the actual process will occur. In order for this mandate to be successful, measures need to be taken to ensure the cooperation of homeowners, commercial businesses, the actual collection workers that make up the county.
The only way that it's really going to work is to make recycling as easy on the homeowner and the municipal people that have to collect it as throwing out your garbage is. Now, what I mean by that is a lot of people, what do you do with your garbage? Well, you put it all in a bag, you bring it out on the curb, and you leave it there, and that's it. It goes away, and many people forget. They don't even think there's a garbage problem. They forget about it. It disappears. Someone takes it. Well, if you could do that for recycling, it would make it a whole lot easier than asking somebody to separate their glass bottles according to color, to remove the labels, to take off the caps, to separate their aluminum cans from their bimetal cans, to separate their yard waste or their eggshells and other compostable materials and have a compost. To separate all of these materials out is a very difficult task. Although it can be done, we're kidding ourselves if we think that the majority of our population, and I'm speaking nationwide, not just in Westchester, is going to do that.
The first step to recycling is in the home. The second is the transfer of waste to the depot or recycling facility. The third step is the actual sorting and processing of the recyclable materials. There are many different ways to go about this process of sorting the materials. One way is the sorting of material by the consumer. The second is by the transfer of the materials to the plant.
We take it to the facility that we're currently designing. It's called, again, a material recovery facility, MRF, also known as MRF. A lot of people think it's a cartoon character, but it's not. When it gets to the facility, this material is dumped on a tipping floor, and all of those mixed recyclables go along a conveyor belt system, and they're separated according to type by mostly mechanical means. They'll run under a magnet, for example, and all the metal food containers will attracted to the magnet. The magnet passes by a blade. The metal food containers go off onto their own separate processing belt where they're cleaned up, they're baled, they're prepared for market. We sell them to a scrap metal guy. The material goes a little further along. It may go through a series of weighted chains where the chains are set so that bottles will pass through, but when the big plastic milk jug hits it, it deflects that off to the side, and that goes along its own path, and it's granulated and sold to a plastics resin person. This goes on with glass and all the rest of the materials. They're prepared for the marketplace. And we feel that by making it that easy, having us do the separation rather than the homeowner, we're going to make a significant dent in the waste stream. gearing the facility to handle 52,000 tons of recyclables its very first year of operation. That's based on an 8-hour work shift. We'll be able to run 3 shifts, so technically we could handle eventually as much as 150,000 tons of material at this facility. That's our most exciting long-term plan, and that's what we're working toward rapidly right now.
Technically, all garbage is recyclable, but some markets are unable at this time to process certain materials. One such product is styrofoam. The major recyclable products at this time are plastics, glass, newspapers, and aluminum. Once the consumers know what can be recycled, how do the municipalities enforce recycling laws?
Well, once mandatory laws come into place, there's several mechanisms that can be used to enforce using them. First of all, I think it's important that everybody that generates refuse be aware that there is, in fact, a mandatory law. It's just like the seatbelt law. You know, when it first became mandatory, I'm sure a lot of people didn't know about it. They didn't wear their seatbelts. Now you'll see more people wearing seatbelts than anything else. So I think that education from that perspective, sending out direct mailers to everybody, which is kind of ironic because you're generating some extra waste by selling recycling, but letting them know that the program exists and how they participate in it, using a follow-up memo or letter to them to remind them to participate, that initially should stimulate a good participation level. However, if you get those people, and they're out there, that just can't be bothered, there's been some very creative methods used. Well, one, of course, is the good old fine. That's where they fine you for not participating. Others have done, there's been contests where they have on your recycling containers, they have little numbers, and they have a drawing, and they give away a prize, and so, you know, that a local merchant donates, so that makes people recycle. Other ones I've heard about, probably my favorite one is if you don't put out your recyclables, we won't pick up your garbage. And believe me, that one will stimulate recycling faster than anything else. Unfortunately, it might stimulate a lawsuit too. So there's various mechanisms, but I guess it's kind of like the seatbelt law. You know, it's the analogy is that, you know, you might pass a patrolman not wearing a seatbelt, and he might see it and he might not bother to stop you, but then again he might. And I really believe that most of the citizens of Westchester are law-abiding people, and if they know a law is in place and it's relatively easy for them to abide by it, they will.
In big cities with apartment housing, how are the materials collected?
Apartment house recycling is something that is a real challenge as far as recycling goes, and the reason being most apartment dwellers don't bring their refuse out to a curb, they bring it out to a dumpster. So the way that it will most likely be approached will be the landlord will be responsible for having a collection container for recyclables that would be located somewhere out in the vicinity of the dumpster, for example, and of course would have to then contract with somebody to come and regularly pick up that material.
Recycling is definitely a strong issue that is facing not only Westchester County, but the world. Dumps are getting higher and landfills closing each day. When is all this destruction of the land we live on going to stop? Recycling is not a choice. It is a necessity for life on Earth.
I don't think it's a question of will it work. It's more of a question, it's more of a statement that it has to work. Just like any new venture, there's a real learning curve that's going to be experienced. There's going to be mistakes that are going to be made along the way, and there could be costly mistakes. But I really believe that if human nature dictates that if it has to work, it can work. And I think that that'll be the case in large cities as well as in urban areas.